People like to be scared, just a little bit, and they like that because they go watching all the horror movies. Yeah. And that's another thing. People don't like our lyrics, because it says Satan now, then they go and watch Halloween or whatever it is.
Well,
yeah. So why don't they just accept our lyrics as, if they don't want to look for messages, then don't. Just take it as horror stories, that's all. I don't want to preach, but if people want to know something about it, I'm willing to discuss with them. I've had discussions on television in Denmark with priests and...
Oh, really?
Yeah, poor them, yeah. They can't answer my questions, unfortunately.
Hey guys, this is Eric from Mountaintop 9, and tonight, in association with the Downfall Network, I want to bring you a video about one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time, the one, the only, Mercyful Fate from Copenhagen, Denmark. In 1981, Mercyful Fate actually came to be out of the ashes of a punk rock band called Brats. Or the Brats. I prefer to say the Brats rather than just Brats. It just sounds better to me that way. But anyway, this band, if you've never heard of them, it always had Hank Shermann on guitar, right? So you know you're going to get lots of great hard rock and riffs. But that band also had some really punk influence type stuff. I'm talking about, the fast, just downstrumming chord progression that you'd hear in bands like the Ramones. Well, the Brats have songs like that as well. Michael Denner was also in Brats, but he would come and go. The one mainstay in that band through all of it was Hank Shermann. Well, in 1981, King Diamond was on the vocals in this band with Hank Shermann, and they started just writing heavier stuff, more evil sounding stuff. And their label at the time, they didn't really care for this stuff. They didn't like the direction that the Brats were headed in, okay? So basically that band just came to dissolve, okay? And out of the ashes came Mercyful Fate. Now in 1981, they went through quite a few members, but finally in 1982, they had the classic lineup solidified, okay? You had Kim Ruz kicking ass on the drums, you had Timmy Hansen on the bass, and you had the classic guitar tandem of Hank Shermann and Michael Denner on the guitar. And let's face it, this guitar duo is just as classic as Murray and Smith or Tipton and Downing. We're talking rarefied air, legendary status, because both of these guys kick ass and take names. They can riff like no one's business, and they can also blaze out some amazing soloing. And then on top of it, you have someone like King Diamond, who, let's face it, this is where we're going to get into where Mercyful Fate had such a wide influence on so many different, subgenres of heavy metal. Because at its core, Mercyful Fate were a traditional heavy metal band. Coming out of that era, they had heavy 70s influence, so they were influenced by bands like Judas Priest and Deep Purple, Uriah Heep, UFO, all that kind of stuff that was a big influence on them. And of course Maiden, I'm sure that kind of got in their minds as they were composing songs. So Mercyful Fate, even though there were very satanic, evil lyrics, that was the stuff that actually had an influence on a lot of the black metal that would come out later. They were very influenced by King Diamond's use of corpse paint, by his satanic lyrics, all of the imagery that the band used, but at their core, musically, we had heavy doses of melody, okay? Catchy riffs that you could just get your feet tapping to. I mean, this is stuff that really moves you. And then the drumming from Kim Ruz, which was really heavily, funk influenced. This stuff really had a groove to it. So you had that element in the way that he would accent the guitars with his use of the hi-hat and just all the different inventive fills that he would do. We're talking about a really complete heavy metal lineup here that just had a heavy influence on so much stuff. Thrash, black metal, traditional heavy metal bands. Many bands that came after owe a heavy debt of gratitude to Mercyful Fate. And one thing I want to point out is how macabre King Diamond's on-stage persona was beginning to be. You have the skull that he was using on stage that was named Melissa, which later ended up getting stolen. And that coupled with the mic stand that he had made out of human bones, I mean, come on. You can't get any more morbid than that. During the whole Satanic Panic era, this kind of stuff, I mean, it really pushed the envelope. And you had King, he was actually lighting crosses on fire on stage during Satan's fall. And I mean, that's something they'd never do nowadays, you know. So this was shocking stuff. In the end, that's going to get more converts to the great music that Mercyful Fate was putting out. You want to get that kind of attention. I mean, hell, Into the Coven, it ended up being named on that PMRC Filthy 15 or whatever the hell it was called. Into the Coven actually made it on there. If it's going to be on the PMRC's Filthy 15 or whatever the hell they called it, you would have to put every Mercyful Fate track. It would have to fill up the whole damn list. Because every Mercyful Fate song up to that point, I mean all of it, it's all a cult. So that's kind of funny when you think about it. But let's move along to the first legendary release from Mercyful Fate, the self-titled EP, A Corpse Without Soul. Are you kidding me? This song comes raging out of the gate, and just when you think this is going to be your standard straight-ahead thrashing type metal song, you know, with just a fast pace, all of a sudden it spins into this riff that just sounds like nothing you've ever heard. It's so damn catchy. It's so 70s hard rock influenced. I mean, how can you ever get over that line at the very end of the song when King Diamond just lets it all out, leaves it all out? He sounds like he's screaming from the bowels of hell, and the high note that he hits, his voice cracks. He goes to such high extremes at the end of this song, and it is just mesmerizing.
Satan has taken his.
And then the hits keep coming, my friends, because the next track is Nuns Have No Fun. And this is where King Diamond is getting into some really confrontational lyrics. He's trying to poke and prod at the establishment, you know, putting in things in that chorus like C-U-N-T, that's just what you are. And then the music, we're just talking catchy ass hard rock metal in its purest form, Doomed by the Living Dead. Off the rails vocals from King Diamond. I mean, he's spinning this tale of the dead rising from their graves. We got the heavy doses of Satan coming in there. And who can forget the classic line when King Diamond says, "And just say goodbye to all your holy angels." And the riffing that goes along with this song. You know the part in the middle of this song where you just get this bluesy ass riff that just makes you want to bang your head. This stuff flat out rocks. Mercyful Fate are the kings of riffing. Then you got Devil Eyes right after that, with its really funky disco beat going on and its heavy use of melody. I mean, the song's called Devil Eyes, and he's talking about taking you to hell and everything else in the lyrics. But then we got this really soothing, melodic, very uplifting, you know, melody line that leads out the song, you know, as the song is getting towards its conclusion. That's the thing you gotta love about Mercyful Fate. That contradiction, all right? That's what really stirs you. That's what ropes the listener in, and that's what people have to understand. Mercyful Fate's first release from 1982 is an all-time classic, a huge influence on people. But it's the next one, 1983's Melissa, which took the band to new heights.
I just can't believe in God because he's that evil. If he is so all-powerful and almighty, why can't he come down to earth and show himself to people so that they can see that he's for real and that he's the guy to believe in. Instead, he sits up in his heaven and goes, those people, they don't believe in me, and when that final day comes, I'm going to roast them in hell.
I've read in interviews that during this time, Mercyful Fate, they were rehearsing 6 days a week, man. This band wasn't taking any time off, and they were becoming a very tight unit. I mean, the band already had music for songs like Desecration of Souls and A Dangerous Meeting. They were already working on stuff like that back when it was just Hank Sherman and King Diamond doing the Brats, all right? So the band was firing on all cylinders at this point. But this album is just pure heavy metal bliss to anyone with a good ear for melody and catchy ass riffs, because we got classic after classic on this album. We've got Evil on here, Curse of the Pharaohs, Into the Coven. I mean, every song on this album is great. Me, myself, I love the song At the Sound of the Demon Bell. I think it's vastly overlooked. And getting back to the track Evil for a second, what makes that song such a compelling opener to an album like Melissa is not only do you have that furious, thrashing type of intro, just the tempo of it. I mean, it's kicking your ass and taking names. But when you get to that part when King Diamond is singing, and when you're down beyond the ground, and he's talking about digging up the body again, that is really sick, over the top stuff. And another thing I want to talk about real quick about Mercyful Fate. Mercyful Fate had riffs for days. This band has riffs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus snacks, all right? You can get up and eat a goddamn midnight snack on these damn riffs. Mercyful Fate has so many good riffs that some of them get wasted because they're buried beneath a scorching lead solo, you know what I mean? Hank Sherman will be blazing some blistering lead, but beneath that, you'll be hearing some rockin' ass riff, and you'll go, holy shit, that would be a good riff. You gotta eat these riffs with some relish. I'm telling you that right now. Just put them right on a hot dog, put some mustard and relish on there, and go to town. Because Mercyful Fate has got riffs all damn day. They're spilling all over the floor. Now this is where I want to take the time to point out that all of the music on Melissa was composed by Hank Sherman. Of course, King Diamond did all the lyrics. That goes without saying. But it's very important to point out that on the first EP, and on Melissa, the sole songwriter of all the music, all the riffing, was Hank Sherman. Now, Michael Denner does have a song credit on Nuns Have No Fun, but that's the one exception. So anyway, on Melissa, this is all Hank Sherman material musically, and his riffs on here, he was just at an amazing zenith. I want to talk about Black Funeral for a minute. You want to talk about another classic that gets overlooked sometimes, because people are always talking about Evil and Curse of the Pharaohs. Black Funeral. This is like the height. This is one of the most evil songs King Diamond ever wrote lyrically. I mean, and that's saying something, but it's just the overall boiling atmosphere that this song has, okay? The riff, the way it chugs along, and the way it really takes you into the depths of some really sordid, lurid imagery. I mean, we're talking about some woman being sacrificed on an altar and spilling blood and all of this stuff. And that riff, that really doomy section after King Diamond says, she was a victim of my coven. Oh man, the riff that comes pounding in after that, it sounds like there's blood dripping off the riff. But another one that just really, takes you to another place as far as atmosphere is concerned. Look no further than Into the Coven, starting with that clean guitar, and then we got the nice kind of cheerful dancing melody lines coming from the lead guitar, but then that boiling atmosphere kicks in, okay? When the real electric hard riffing comes in and the soloing takes a darker turn, the emotion that's coming out of guitar, it lends such a great air of mystery and just drags you into this other world. That's what a song like Into the Coven does. Satan's Fall. Now this song came to be because, Hank Sherman was just coming up with riff after riff, and he's just chaining them together, but there's something about the way this song flows. I know it kind of feels jagged at first, and it feels like the tempo is shifting rather abruptly, but I just feel like Satan's Fall goes from fast sections to doomy sections to really overwrought emotional sections. It just flows very well to me. This song is like having this really weird fever dream where you're just going from one extreme to another, and the song is just feeding you so many demonic emotions. And who can forget that part later on in the song where King Diamond says, "Innocent lovers, it's a lie." And then you got that Michael Denner solo that comes in that is just so wrought with passion. And there's just this sadness to the lead work that he's doing. Michael Denner was a master at really just coming up with these incredibly sad, emotional, just the things that really tug at the heartstrings as far as lead guitar work goes. He just has a magic feeling. That's one of the important elements of Mercyful Fate that just takes you to that other plane, that other level of enjoyment. Comes a lot from the stuff that Michael Denner would lay down on top of the great riffing from Hank Shermann. Hank Shermann has some really blazing, furious heavy metal leads, and he adds in some bluesy flourishes, and he has his strengths as far as lead guitar work goes. But it's Michael Denner's emotional nature on the guitar that just really just pulls at you, man, because you've got all this evil stuff going on and you've got all the heaviness going on, so it's nice to have that dose of humanity. But yeah, man, I could just go on and on about Satan's Fall. There's just so many good sections in it. I love the doomy sections in it too, man. That really heavy part where King Diamond is singing "Come Home," evil messengers with blood-stained wings. You know that whole section where he's doing the real high-pitched falsettos, which he is world-renowned for. That's one thing I haven't even touched on. I mean, how can we neglect to mention the fact that this band has a vocalist that's constantly doing ear-splitting shrieks, high falsettos, and really just he's channeling this spiritual world, this stuff where you really feel when you're listening to King Diamond on these albums, coupled with the boiling atmosphere of the music. You feel like he really is channeling evil spirits and demons and all of this other twisted stuff that you just don't see in your day-to-day life. But it's the kind of stuff that you see in horror movies or read in books. Well, King Diamond, he's bringing that out into your face, shoving it right into your face. And that's where I want to say something about the lyrics on these King Diamond albums. There are many ways that you can look at them. First of all, you've got the opening lines here in Satan's Fall where he's talking about 7 satanic hell preachers heading for the hall, bringing the blood of a newborn child. You can look at them as horror stories, all right? You can just look at them as individual pieces talking about, human sacrifice and all this stuff. And a lot of these lyrics, they're very much from what, as King Diamond would say, from the organized religion standpoint of how they view this stuff, as the kind of tales that Christians would tell, as far as an actual entity known as Satan, with horns and all of that. But because King Diamond was also heavily influenced at this time by Anton LaVey, all right? Anton LaVey, of course, was the founder of the Church of Satan, and he wrote the Satanic Bible. Well, King Diamond, around this time, in the very early days of Mercyful Fate, he had come upon that book, all right, the Satanic Bible.
Satanism isn't dangerous at all, It's a very sound life philosophy, carry out your feelings, that's it. Have a good life, enjoy yourself. You don't know what's going to happen to you after this life.
So King Diamond would mix the horror imagery, okay, all of this classic imagery of horned devils, human sacrifice, all that kind of stuff, but he'd also mix in his own little bit of philosophy in there too, if you care enough to read between the lines in the lyrics. Like there's the section in Satan's Fall where he says, "Use your demon eyes, uncover the disguise, time is out, I don't need your God." Of course, Melissa is a song about, this guy is in love with a woman and it turns out, she's a witch and she ends up getting burned at the stake by some priest. This song is just magical. I mean, there's nothing else you can say about Melissa. It's a magical, weird, entrancing song that has just stood the test of time, just like the whole damn album. Melissa is a classic from start to finish. I think it has a great sound. The band were never really happy with the production on it, I like the production. There's just something about it. I think it has a great atmosphere. It sucks you in and it keeps you there throughout the duration. Now, one thing I don't like is they left off the song Black Masses. I love that song. Such a great, heavy, hard rockin' metal song, man. The riffing is just so damn great. It's got sort of an Am I Evil type riff in there. And then you got King Diamond singing about baby's blood being full of strength. They're talking about killing babies in the song. And it's even kind of funny, you know, because it's so tongue-in-cheek at the end there where King Diamond even throws it in again. He says, we're killing babies, Black Masses. Oh, man, just rocks. But Black Masses is just as good as the rest of the songs on Melissa. Now let's move on to the mighty Don't Break the Oath.
We used to have a skull named Melissa, a real human skull. Unfortunately, it was stolen in Amsterdam, and it was the skull that we made the song after. But now we've got a new one, just as human as the other one. So this one's got to be Melissa's sister. And she used to be a real gypsy!
The atmosphere on here is so slicing, so cutting. The riffing on here just lacerates your flesh. It comes for you and drags you kicking and screaming into a crypt somewhere, man. This music, it just from the opening, a dangerous meeting. Just, it gets you off and tells you this is gonna be supreme hellish atmosphere. Those opening lines, tonight the circle is meeting again, and he's telling a tale about this group of people that like to get together, and they do seances, all right, and they're trying to channel, the spirit world. The only problem is as they're playing with Ouija boards and using crystal balls and all this stuff, trying to peer into the other side, King Diamond is warning in this song that there are things on the other side, things that are demonic in nature. You may think you're talking to a nice, friendly spirit, but you may be talking to something truly malevolent. Desecration of Souls. We gotta talk about that song. If you don't like Desecration of Souls, I don't know what to tell you, because, I mean, it's one of the best damn songs on the album, and King Diamond vocally at the beginning. It's really cool how King Diamond can do so many different types of voices on his albums. At the beginning, he's doing a very, for him, this is almost like a death growl of sorts. You know, the way he's saying, stay away, white magician, young lovers, and mourning wife. Here's where we get into weird stuff. Stuff like Night of the Unborn. The way King Diamond sings on that tune, it's just so otherworldly. It feels like his voice, once again, disembodied. That's the type of feeling I get, like almost like his voice is going, and just circling the room and traveling all over the place. It has that type of effect. And of course, this album is just swamped in reverb. And of course, that goes without saying that Mercyful Fate were a big influence on bands like Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth. All three of those bands, just off the top of my head, have made it publicly known in one way or another that Mercyful Fate were an influence. But back to what I was saying, Night of the Unborn, just great drumming from Kim Ruz, just really laying down those crazy beats. He always had a way of accentuating everything that Mercyful Fate did and just filling up those empty spaces with some really nice, unique, unorthodox drumming. Now we get to the next song, which is called The Oath. Now, the thing about The Oath that's very unique is it's the first song where King Diamond is the sole songwriter. He wrote every damn riff in this song as well as writing the lyrics, and what a masterpiece. I mean, this is a way to make a statement. After you get past that intro and then that evil laughter that King does there, you get into this almost, it's like Maiden-esque type of riffing, that first main riff out of the gates. It comes charging out, and it sounds so damn good. But the thing about The Oath is it goes from one riff to another. I talked earlier about how things could be kind of jagged in Satan's Fall. How the tempo shifts could be rather abrupt, but I still think it flows. Well, The Oath manages to go from one riff to another, and it doesn't even seem jagged, man. It just really just travels so effortlessly. I love that pummeling riff at that section where King Diamond starts singing as a being now possessed of a human body. You know, that whole damn section, that riff right there, it just makes you want to smash right through a pane of glass. It's telling this tale of someone selling their soul to the devil. I mean, on the surface, that's basically what the lyrics are saying, but King Diamond would probably have his own, you know, spiritual way of explaining this song. I love that section at the end where King Diamond says, "As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, a world without end. Amen." You know how triumphant the riffing sounds during that part? It just makes you feel so damn good. This is supposed to be this scary, all right, malevolent song, but somehow it ends on such an uplifting and triumphant note. That is the beautiful thing about Mercyful Fate, the beautiful thing about King Diamond, that they're able to channel all these different emotions. I just loved how rebellious in nature the lyrics were, how powerful, just the message that they put across. And you know, when you're a teenager, you just eat this stuff up. It's like eating Cheerios covered with sugar. Welcome, Princes of Hell. When I hear this song even now, it takes me back to being a teenager, listening to this album and just getting swallowed up by the atmosphere. And notice I said welcome, Princes of Hell, not welcome, Princess of Hell. That was a misprint back when they released it. And even when I was a teenager, I thought the song was called Welcome, Princess of Hell. But no, it's Princess. But yeah, man, that emotional part where King Diamond is singing, "Even in the night, I see a light shining bright. I'm alone with my friends." How can you not love that stuff? And then we close out the album with "Come to the Sabbath." And this is one, just like The Oath, where it's composed by King Diamond. We've got King Diamond wanting to get his songwriting voice put across. Not just lyrics, he wanted to get his riffing. Because I want to point out now that King Diamond started out as a guitar player, all right? In the 70s, that's what he started out as. He was a guitar player. He stepped up to the vocal thing, you know, a little bit later after he'd gotten his footing as a guitar player, as a musician. So King Diamond, you know, he knows how to write a good damn riff, let me tell you. He can write a kick-ass riff, and we're going to get to more of those soon. But anyway, there started to be friction in the band during this point between, predominantly among Hank Shermann and King Diamond. They were kind of coming to sort of battle almost because King Diamond wanted more of his stuff. And at the same time, Hank Shermann, I think, was kind of getting tired of the whole metal thing and wanted to go in a more pop type of route. And that's why he would end up forming that band Fate, which is like a AOR pop, you know, not even a hard rock band. They were more just rock pop type stuff, okay? And that's where Hank Shermann was headed, and he was wearing like white tank tops and white pants and you know, just looking like really he wasn't fitting in image-wise with the band even at this point. When they went out on the Don't Break the Oath tour, the rest of the band looked like heavy metal musicians, all right? And of course, you got the splendidly dark theatrical presence that is the one and only King Diamond, but then you got Hank Shermann over here playing these heavy-duty, occult heavy metal songs, but he's dressed wearing a white tank top, looking like he's going to go out for a run or something. Just doesn't fit in. So the band were really coming, you know, to a bad place at that point. But anyway, Come to the Sabbath. It just closes out Don't Break the Oath on such a good note. So you got to hand it to King Diamond on this one. Awesome riffing. That riff that comes in towards the end, you know the one I'm talking about. You know the one where he's saying lyrics like, "You say heaven, I say a castle of lies. You say forgive him, I say revenge." That whole riff during that section, it's a hard rockin' classic, man. It's another riff which is more rock than it is straight ahead like pummeling metal or anything like that. But it's got this super satanic lyrical stuff going on top, because he's talking about, you know, demons and witches gathering down by a ruined bridge trying to summon Satan, you know. And that's funny because it starts off with those kind of lyrics, you know, with all the horror movie trappings and all the stuff that, you know, people have been fed through sensationalism and everything, what people think Satanism is. But then King Diamond sprinkles in those lines there at the end where he says stuff like, you say forgive him, I say revenge, stuff like that. That's coming more from his personal philosophy, from the LaVeyan influence. So that's an interesting thing about Come to the Sabbath. But man, yeah, when he gets to the ending there and says, my sweet Satan, you are the one, and his voice echoes, you can't help but feel like, man, I just heard one of the greatest damn heavy metal albums ever. And that's what Don't Break the Oath is. The band went on tour, but there was just increasing friction between King Diamond and Hank Sherman primarily about, you know, about the future direction of the band and all that stuff. Just too many musical differences, all right? So the band ended up breaking up in 1985. And of course, King Diamond, he went on to form his solo band at this point. He took Timmy Hansen and Michael Denner along for the ride to form his own band. And, you know, Hank Sherman went off to do his own thing with the band called Fate. And so time kind of went along. Then 1992 came along, and there was a release called Return of the Vampire. Return of the Vampire, it's another compilation thing. It's just a bunch of odds and ends. It's just a collection of demo material from before Mercyful Fate even went into the studio and recorded the very first EP. This is just different demo stuff that the band were recording, and there's other band members on here. There's a guitar player named Benny Peterson that's on some of this stuff. He wrote the first track on here, and that's the thing I want to tell you about Return of the Vampire. What's so important to listen to on Return of the Vampire is the opening cut, Burning the Cross. All-time classic in the Mercyful Fate catalog. It's just a great tune. The song just has all the progressive leanings. We've got all kinds of stuff going on in Burning the Cross. Great tune. Another good song on here I actually like a lot. Michael Denner wrote this one. It's called Leave My Soul Alone. And then we've got the really cheesy sounding Mission Destroy Alien. And the way King Diamond sings that line in the chorus when he's going Mission Destroy Aliens and his voice is just traveling off into the ether. It's really compelling, even though it's supremely cheesy. Everything else on here, it's just odds and ends. It's stuff that you'd hear on later albums, just different versions of other songs. So, yeah. And I love the cover to Return of the Vampire. So cool. I just love it when Mercyful Fate would go for that kind of imagery. Because the cool thing about Mercyful Fate, I also want to say that I love so much, I love King Diamond's solo career. When I'm in the mood to listen to one of his concept albums, you know, it really hits the spot. Them was the first King Diamond album I ever bought. And the atmosphere on it's so damn evil and just takes you into this total otherworldly vibe. I love it. It's like listening to a horror movie. But the thing I love about Mercyful Fate is you get this same type of horror feeling, all right? All of these tales are very evil. Even when he was singing about the satanic stuff, each song just sounded like a concise horror movie trimmed down into one song. King Diamond had heard a project that Michael Denner and Hank Sherman were doing together, okay? And it was called Zoser Mez. Really weird band name, but they were doing some very Mercyful Fate-esque music, okay? The riffing that they were laying down was just Mercyful Fate material to the max. And King Diamond, he heard this stuff and he was like, man, this is pure Mercyful Fate. I gotta get back with these guys. We've gotta get together and put some good stuff out. So that's what King Diamond and company did. Everyone reunited for In the Shadows. King Diamond, Denner, Sherman, Timmy Hansen. The sole person that wasn't there for this reunion was Kim Ruz. And as it turns out, as I've read in interviews and heard elsewhere, there was just bad blood between the members and Kim Ruz. King Diamond said that there were issues, you know, ego type issues with Kim Ruz. He said that they just had problems getting along with him, especially King Diamond. You know, they would just have fights over the most ridiculous things. So King Diamond just really didn't want Kim Ruz back in the band for In the Shadows. And it's too bad for us as fans, because Kim Ruz just brought this incredible element to the band. Like I said earlier, just he had this unorthodox approach to being a metal drummer. So, you know, Kim Ruz was very sorely missed on In the Shadows. Instead of Kim Ruz being behind the drums, they had someone named Morten Nielsen. Okay, he stepped up to the plate, and I think he did a decent job, even though it's not all adventurous, and it doesn't sound like what Kim Ruz would do. You know, it's a different approach. It's just a different guy. But the riffing and everything on In the Shadows is prime Mercyful Fate.
It felt like we just done the last album, Don't Break the Oath, a couple of days before. We joined again and started working. The chemistry was there immediately. It was unbelievable.
Let's start with the cover. I just want to say that cover for In the Shadows is so classic. You've got like the back of a girl there, and I'm going to presume that it's Melissa. And she's looking out at all these elements that encompass the different themes that are presented on the album, okay? We got the old oak tree there. There's spirits traveling through the darkness. I think you even have the Headless Rider somewhere on there, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the cover right in front of me right now, but I'm pretty sure there's all these different elements blended in there. Okay, so you got that cover, and this album is just beautiful. It sounds so polished. You know, whereas the old Mercyful Fate, the 80s Mercyful Fate, had kind of like this raw, hellish atmosphere to it, just something that just seemed not of this world. The thing about In the Shadows and then Mercyful Fate offerings afterwards, all the stuff in the 90s sounds different. It sounds more polished. And King Diamond is taking a very different, you know, vocal and lyrical approach on this album as well. It must be pointed out, at this point in King Diamond's career, he wasn't doing the constant high falsettos anymore. I know King Diamond, he did different vocal approaches on those old Mercyful Fate albums. You know, he'd do mid-range stuff and low-range stuff, all kinds of stuff just to change it up and add spice and variety. But my point is by the time, this time in his career, he just wasn't doing as many of the high-pitched shrieks. He wasn't doing as many of those ear-splitting falsettos. He was toning it down a little bit. His voice at this point was probably so overworked at this point in his career from doing all the albums he did, because let's not forget, King Diamond had been incredibly prolific throughout the 80s. From the time that self-titled EP came out all the way up through the end of the 80s, he was very prolific, constantly putting stuff out, touring, all that. So his voice was getting overworked, so I think that's why he adapted and kind of changed his approach. But another key change at this point was King Diamond wasn't using the word Satan, okay? He just wasn't using that word, and he had made that decision earlier on when he started his solo band because, you know, he would say in interviews, he said he didn't like the idea that people were just getting the wrong idea. When he would use the word Satan, other people would get different images in his mind than what he meant. You know, as far as King Diamond was concerned, whenever he was using the word Satan, he likes to say in interviews that to him, Satan represents, that means the forces of the unknown. That's what it means to him when he's using that word. And of course, other people just take it at face value all the time. And hey, you know, I've got to agree with a lot of people that take it at face value because to me, when you look at songs like Black Funeral and Black Masses, let's face it, those are straight ahead horror movie, B-film type trappings where they're talking about human sacrifice, sacrificing virgins, babies, all of this demonic stuff. You gotta take that at face value. There's nothing to read beneath the surface in that type of stuff. So King Diamond kind of has it both ways when he'd say that. I mean, he really did go for the full tilt shock factor in a lot of those old songs. I really feel like he just got tired of using Satan, using that word in all the songs, because it probably just became redundant to him. That's what I really think. On this album, his approach was, I just want to tell some different, unearthly, weird, horror-filled tales, and that's what he did, you know. You've got songs on here like The Bell Witch and The Old Oak. I love both these songs. Both of these songs musically are composed by Hank Sherman, and he pulled out all the stops on The Bell Witch. You got this witch haunting and tormenting this family. And then on The Old Oak, King Diamond is telling this tale about a cursed ground. I mean, the soil around this old oak tree is cursed. Nothing can grow in the ground there.
It's the old oak hanging tree. It's the old oak hanging tree.
I like the opener, Egypt, as well. It's penned entirely. It's a King Diamond composition musically as well, and it's a good one. I really like that part in Egypt where King Diamond is saying, "I'm burning inside to know." Oh man, the riffing under that vocal line when he's doing that, it's just really compelling. It's a driving type melody line that the guitar is just pumping out there. There's actually this instrumental on here called "Room of Golden Air" that Michael Denner wrote, okay? And it's a great tune. I really love the riffage on it. It's got a nice atmosphere. It's got the mystical vibe that just propels this album as it is. And we got the great production, so everything just sounds really good. But it doesn't diminish the horror atmosphere that this album has. This album is a nice mix of Hank Sherman music and King Diamond music, okay? As far as Michael Denner is concerned, he contributed A Gruesome Time and Room of Golden Air. Those were his two contributions. But overall, this album is a nice mix of songwriting from all the members musically, okay? So I think it has a really nice balance in that sense. And it's still adventurous. He's still got songs that are progressive and going from one section to another, tempo changes, you know? So In the Shadows is just a really strong comeback album in general. I really love it. I grew up listening to this album. This album, I've always thought it was great. And it's just gotten better with time, in my opinion. Now, is it like Melissa or Don't Break the Oath? No, it's a different beast. It's a different animal, okay? It doesn't have that same type of atmosphere, but it's just a new, it's an evolved Mercyful Fate sound minus Kim Russ. And Is That You, Melissa? Good tune, man. It's got a good atmosphere. You know, King Diamond is still calling out to that lost love, Melissa. Her spirit's out there somewhere and he's trying to find her. On this album, as it turns out, Mercyful Fate, you know, being from Copenhagen, Denmark, well, you want to know who else is from Denmark? Well, I bet you already know. His name is Lars Ulrich, the drummer of Metallica. We all know him. He has always been good friends with the guys in Mercyful Fate. And, you know, Lars had some free time, so while the band were in the studio, they called Lars and said, "Hey, come in, we'll jam on some old Mercyful Fate tunes." Lars came down, one thing led to another, and they ended up recording this version of Return of the Vampire with Lars Ulrich on drums. Now, it's a good version. I think the drumming's good. My only caveat is I think the drums are turned way too far high up in the mix. It's almost like this version of Return of the Vampire should say lead drumming by Lars Ulrich because it's so loud. Now, as it turns out, when it got to be time to tour for In the Shadows, Morten Nielsen had some kind of recurring knee problem, okay? So he couldn't stay with the band. He couldn't go on tour. So the band brought in Snowy Shaw on the drums, all right? And Timmy Hansen couldn't go out and tour either. So they brought in Charlie D'Angelo, all right, on the bass. And they went out, they toured for the album, everything went good, and one thing led to another. And after they released another EP, the Bell Witch EP, after that, the band went right back in the studio, and in 1994, they came out with another album called Time.
And then we'll be back in the studio doing a new album for both bands, you know, first Mercyful Fate, then King Diamond, and then we'll go out with Mercyful Fate.
You must feel a bit schizophrenic.
What?
You got to stop this game before I go insane.
The first thing that jumps to mind when you listen to Time is the songs are very punchy. They're very straight to the point. They're less adventurous musically. They're not going to take you off into all these wild different areas. You know, there's a song at the very end of the album called Castillo de Mortes. I think I said that right. Anyway, that song that closes it out, it's composed by Hank Sherman, and it's got some adventurous type riffing. But besides that, the rest of the album, just very punchy, to the point. Most of the songs are in the 3 to 4 minute range. You know, the only song that's a 6 minute long song is the final track. Everything else is very short, concise, and to the point. That's what the band was focused on here. Now, to me, that's a little bit of a complaint. I like it when Mercyful Fate mixes in, you know, shorter, to the point songs. I like it when they mix in, you know, progressively leaning songs, when they mix in, you know, adventurous stuff that just takes you on a damn journey. But hey, man, Nightmare Be Thy Name. Musically, it's written by Michael Denner. That's a catchy rockin' riff that opens up the tune, and the chorus, the way King Diamond's kind of doing that vocal line, Nightmare Be Thy Name, kind of in his lower register. I like it. It's kind of a cool tune, but I really think songs like Angel of Light, you know, it's kind of got this Snakes of Christ, Danzig type riff going on, but Mercyful Fate style. It's not a copy of that riff. It's just got kind of that feeling, and King Diamond, he's kind of hearkening back to the old days, because he says in this song, I can see the angel of light, and then he says Lucifer. So he's bringing back in a little bit more of the direct, you know, references to the devil.
Lucifer.
Witch's Dance is a catchy tune, man. I really like that one. It had a music video that accompanied it that they did for that song. And Witch's Dance is really fun. It's got some good stuff going on. Catchy riffing, cool lyrics. Melodically, I like King Diamond's vocal lines in this song, so that one's a standout for me. Time, the title track, it has a King Diamond solo band type feel to it, you know, because it isn't like a guitar oriented song. It's got that harpsichord thing going on. But I do like the chilling type of atmosphere it invokes, you know, because King Diamond here, he's singing about death. He's singing about mortality and about, you know, minutes and seconds are passing us by. So I kind of like that. It's kind of a unique song in the Mercyful Fate catalog. Now, both the Mad Arab and My Demon, those both have some really good, evil-sounding riffing in them, so I like those tunes pretty well. It closes out, like I said, with Castillo de Mortes, and that's a good tune. It's adventurous, but overall, am I a big fan of Time? Well, one big difference besides the shorter songs is you've got Snowy Shaw on the drums here, and I think he does a pretty damn good job behind the drums, you know. He's no Kim Ruz, he doesn't have that type of approach, but I feel like he's a little bit more powerful. Time is a pretty good album, but it's a little bit uneven in parts. It's not like this great, amazing album like In the Shadows was. So now we've got 2 albums released in back-to-back years by Mercyful Fate. In '93 they had In the Shadows, in '94 they had Time. After this, the band wouldn't release their next album until 1996, and that album would be Into the Unknown.
But we're gonna play a brand new song for you. There's a new Mercyful Fate album coming out soon. It's called Into the Unknown. This is the uninvited guest. He's right here.
On Into the Unknown, the band would inject more overt references now. We're starting to come back, you know, in regards to Lucifer. You know, the band was bringing that back a little bit more now. King Diamond wanted to push that a little bit more into music, so you get that right at the top of the album, okay? You get this very dark opening, but then when it charges into The Uninvited Guest, The Uninvited Guest is an all-time Mercyful Fate classic. If you're a Mercyful Fate fan and you can't get behind a song like The Uninvited Guest, man, you might need to check your pulse. You might need to get down to the nearest goddamn doctor's office and get some kind of health update, all right? Get your blood pressure checked, get your damn head, get an MRI done, because the Uninvited Guest is a beautiful song from start to finish. It has a hard charging feeling right out of the gates. And then King Diamond is doing the mid-range where he's going, there's a little old man hiding in the shadows, you know, all that type of stuff. So he's spinning this tale about this old man that's outside his house, and then he ends up inviting him in. And then it turns out that this old man, his name was Damien, and he used to live in this house. So it's it's a really ghostly tale, okay? But it's just really unique because even though King Diamond, he's singing this scary story, there are these really emotional passages, okay? Where he's singing about come inside and stay for a little while. Those parts sound very sweet and saccharine, you know what I mean? They just have this syrupy, really emotional feeling to them, and just the heavy use of guitar melody. So the way the Uninvited Guest balances like heavy metal aggression with just beautiful melody lines that are just very evocative, this song does that magically. You've got Listen to the Bell on here, where King Diamond is taking that storytelling approach where he's doing kind of almost a spoken word. He's kind of narrating, you know, the tale of the song. And King Diamond did that a lot in the 90s. It must be reiterated again that his vocal approach in the 90s, he relied on a lot more of the lower range. I just love this crunchy, raw riffing on Listen to the Bell. And it just might tell you why. How can you not love that, my friends? And you got 15 Men and a Bottle of Rum. It's kind of a lighthearted song about a bunch of drunken sailors that get caught in a storm. As far as other standout tracks on Into the Unknown, it must be said that the title track, Into the Unknown, it takes you on one of those dangerous meeting type stories, okay? Where this group of people is trying to find out which one of the next of them is gonna die and move on to another plane of existence. And you gotta love the clean guitar sections. It just sets up this really unique atmosphere because it sounds nice, and then it goes from nice and sweet sounding to supremely foreboding, ominous, and evil. So Into the Unknown, it's got all that stuff. And some beautiful, like, solo sections. You know, I like that part after King Diamond says, who should I let go? Who needs to know? After he lets out those lines in that odd, ethereal sounding voice, you know, this clean solo, this wispy guitar solo comes in to kind of lull you into this false sense of security before everything just bashes right back in your face and the heavy riffage just comes pummeling back into your cranium.
Now my finger points at you.
But for me, the crowning achievement on Into the Unknown, and one of the most overlooked Mercyful Fate songs in general, is a track called Under the Spell. And it's another King Diamond composed song, which once again just shows how damn good King Diamond is at writing catchy, hard rock and guitar riffs that get stuck in your brain for days on end. Under the Spell goes from one catchy riff to another, and also it's got the super emotional melodic sections as well. That part later on in the track where King Diamond is singing, and I know that night so well. You know that section. It's so damn emotional and primal. It hits you right here, right in the damn chest. Under the Spell's got it all. It's got the emotion, the heaviness, the catchy riffs, beautiful, tasteful solos. Just a great song from top to bottom, and one that it's a song I cherish. I just love it.
Dancing, blasphemous, waiting for him to go. Dancing, blasphemous.
But yeah, from top to bottom, Into the Unknown, it's just a very, very solid album, and I hold it up there in high regard amongst other 90s albums that I really love, like In the Shadows. On the drums on this album, we don't have Snowy Shaw anymore. We have Bjarne Holm. That's who did the drums on this album and on every Mercyful Fate album coming afterward. As far as his performance, I think it's solid. No complaints from me. It's not that wild, adventurous, you know, unorthodox Kim Russ type thing. You don't got any of that going on, but I think it's a good, straight-ahead job on the drums. So, moving on from Into the Unknown, the next album that would come out would be Dead Again.
The longest song we ever wrote is on the album, actually. So it's like, you know, it's really going back to the roots, I think.
With long songs and...
Yeah, the title track, Dead Again, is 13 minutes and 40 seconds. And it's just all kinds of stuff going on there.
Now, my first complaint about Dead Again is the fact that Michael Denner is not present on the album. He left after Into the Unknown, sadly, and I just feel like on Dead Again and on the next album after this, you're just missing that melodic, emotional feel that Michael Denner would put forth in those leads that he would do, man. His leads are so integral to the Mercyful Fate, you know, sound, to that whole canvas that the band has going. You know, when you take out Michael Denner's leads, man, you're really taking out a part of the band's soul, a part of the band's being that's very, extremely important. So that's my first complaint. I mean, Mike Weed is the guitar player who stepped in to replace Michael Denner, and I think he does an honorable job. He does a good job, but he just doesn't have the type. He's no Michael Denner, okay? He's not gonna do those types of leads that just tug at your soul and just rip it right out of your body. And my other complaint on Dead Again is the songs are very uneven on here, okay? And in addition to that, it has a very dry a sound to the production that just sounds kind of like sandpaper. It's very displeasing to my ears, all right? When you listen to In the Shadows or Into the Unknown or Time, I think the production job on those three albums is very good. It's a professional, clean job. It's not overly clean or anything. I'm not saying that it's got to be like an episode of the Brady Bunch or something like that. I'm just saying Dead Again is just too rough sounding, okay? It just doesn't sound good to my ears. I don't like the production sound on this album. It just doesn't have the same type of atmosphere as the 80s albums, obviously, and it doesn't have the same type of atmosphere that the previous three 90s albums had. So I don't like the production, and I don't like Michael Denner's absence. But what can I say good about Dead Again? Well, the opening tune, Torture, is pretty solid song. It's got a kind of a unnerving riff from Hank Sherman. You know, it's got some riffing going on that's a little bit complicated, keeps you on your heels a little bit. And King Diamond on the vocals, he's telling another tale where a witch is being persecuted. I also like The Lady Who Cries. It seems to be telling the tale of like a town of people who are going to a statue, okay? The Lady Who Cries, and they think that this statue can perform miracles for them, that it's holy or that it's good. But actually what they're praying to is the devil. So it's that topsy-turvy, kind of turning things on its head type of thing that King likes to do. It's got that nice horror twist to it, this song. And the chorus part, when he's singing The Lady Who Cries, I am he who lights the night, that whole section, those are beautifully layered vocals. King Diamond, on all of these Mercyful Fate albums and in his solo career, is a master at layering and doing different harmonies, okay, with the main vocal line. You got nice, beautiful harmonies that just make the atmosphere so much more operatic and grand. And it also must be said that in The Lady Who Cries, there's a very Children of the Grave reminiscent riff in there, okay? You can hear that chugging, almost note for note kind of reenactment of Children of the Grave. You can hear it there, and King Diamond even said as such in interviews that that's kind of what inspired that riff there. Now, we must talk about the title track, Dead Again. I gotta tell you guys, you noticed how earlier I talked so high, in such high esteem, that I talk about the songwriting that Hank Sherman did for Satan's Fall, where he was able to chain so many different riffs together, and I think make them flow very nicely, going from hard-charging thrashing sections to doomy stuff to emotional, clean parts. Satan's Fall had it all, and it just worked. Period. I don't care what you say, Satan's Fall works. Well, you get to Dead Again, the title track on here, and I'm sorry, it seems like he's trying to do the same thing came up with a bunch of riffs, and he wanted to kind of put them all together. But this song just doesn't work, man. First of all, the riffs aren't as memorable, all right? They are not top-tier quality riffage, my friends. These riffs are just lackluster. They're not that damn good. And then in addition to that, the stuff that King is coming up with melody-wise, you know, vocal-wise, just isn't that great, all right? It's pretty damn boring. I think the title track, Dead Again, is boring. It is a slog. It is tough to get through, and the fact that it's over 10 minutes long makes it that much worse. You know, Dead Again should actually be called torture. I want to lay down on a pillow and take a long freaking nap when I listen to this song. It's just so boring. I just can't get it, man. I'll never get in this song. I've listened to it again and again, all right? I've tried to get into Dead Again, but it's just not possible. What a loser of a song, and it's sad. Because here they made a song that's over 10 minutes. You want it to be this epic, great tune, and it's just not. You know, all this stuff that King Diamond starts saying about, I am an orchestra, I eat an orchestra, I will be an orchestra, you know, all that stuff. It just sounds stupid. All right, man, this doesn't give me this chilling vibe that a lot of the great King Diamond stuff does. That, again, just doesn't do it for me on any level.
I hear an orchestra, I see an orchestra, I breathe an orchestra, I need an orchestra.
But Dead Again is a lyrical foreshadowing of the next album, which is called 9. King Diamond does reference the number 9 in this song, so it does kind of give you a little bit of a taste of what is to come. But it's the last song, Crossroads, which is really interesting. It's a Charlie D'Angelo composition, and it's got a driving heavy riff, a nice aggressive feel to it. And I like the lyrics to it. It's classic Mercyful Fate as far as the lyrical focus of it. And I like the way when the song comes to an end, instead of fading out or coming to a normal conclusion, it's just cut. They just cut it. And that was a purpose, you know, that was a decision that the band made on purpose. They wanted it to have this abrupt, jagged ending just to kind of leave you feeling like, whoa, what did I just listen to?
You are silly.
The band goes out and tours for it, and they end up playing the title track live in the live set. Why, I don't know. People must have been, you would think that people would be wanting to lay down and take a damn nap. I know I would. That song is just boring as hell. And then the band also played the Banshee, and they played The Night. Now, The Night's okay. So out of all the songs they could have played live, at least in the live video I watched from this tour, those are the 3 tracks they played: The Night, The Banshee, and Dead Again. The only one of them that's worth playing live, really, I guess, is The Night. After they toured for Dead Again, the next album that Mercyful Fate would come out with, and their last album as of the recording of this video, would be 1999's album, 9.
Of course, the new one is a reaction towards the last one, so this one is much shorter songs, much faster songs. So we got enough of the symphonic crap on the last albums, and now it's just metal.
My first impression of this album when it came out, and still to this day, is how ferocious it is. 9 is an album that really wants to reach out and it wants to throttle you. You know what I mean? It wants to punch you in the face. The drumming is turned up in the mix. Not turned up too loud that it detracts from everything else, but the drumming is more pushed up in the mix, so it makes the overall sound more aggressive. And I think Bjarne Holm does a good job on this album on the drums. I like it. It's a very important component to this album because there's a lot of fast, there's a lot of double bass stuff, and stuff that just really puts you on the ground and just kicks you while you're down. And the album just has so many fast sections, really fast, aggressive stuff, you know, like on tracks like Insane and House on the Hill. These songs are in your face and they're really thrashing. And so in addition to that, in addition to just being more aggressive, overtly so, this album is just super dark lyrically. King Diamond is bringing back much more of the devil type stuff. He had already been putting it back in since they did Time. started alluding to the devil or Lucifer or whatever you want to say. But on 9 here, he's being way more overt with it once again, talking about selling his soul and to the devil his due and all this kind of stuff. He's putting it right there in your face again. So we've got more aggression on here, and we have more overt satanic lyrics. The album cover itself is just very fiery red and burning looking, very reminiscent of Don't Break the Oath. 9 gets the production job just right. They wanted to go for ferocity and darkness, and I think that the production job captures it nicely without being too dry, too sandpaperish. It captures an aggressive, heavy sound right, man. It punches you in the face, but it sounds good while it's doing it. The album opens up with Last Rites, and this is a lyrical tale where King Diamond is talking about someone that's on their deathbed, and it's someone who's apparently, a disbeliever, someone who's an atheist or something, and a priest is coming in to read the last rites, whatever. And King Diamond, as the character in the story, he's saying, I don't believe in heaven, I don't believe in hell, and he's saying stuff like save your God for someone else. So that's what that whole song's about. He's trying to push the priest out of his hospital room as he's laying there dying. So Last Rites, that's lyrically where it's going, and it's just an aggressive song. It really gets the album started off right.
I don't believe in heaven. I don't believe in hell. So save your God for someone else.
And then the next song, The Church of Saint Anne. Notice how that sounds, The Church of Saint Anne. Kind of sounds like the Church of Satan when you say it real fast. That's something I'm sure was intentional. The Church of Saint Anne has that heavy-duty, crunchy, nasty riffage, man. The sound on that distorted guitar is just crunchy and hellish. It sounds like the guitar is on fire as he's playing it, man. Or like it has like lava coming up from the bowels of hell. I love Sold My Soul. It's got this weird feeling. It's that weird disembodied type feeling because you got the clean guitars going along, right? And then pummeling riffage comes in, and King Diamond's talking about how he sold his soul.
That night was the darkest of all. That night I sold my soul to you.
I really think Buried Alive is the best track on 9. Lyrically it tells this tale about these two guys, and one guy tried to kill another guy, and then the other guy comes back to get revenge, all right? And he slips this guy something in his drink, and then when the guy wakes up, he's being buried alive. And the main character in the song, he's talking about looking down at this guy that he's burying alive. And man, there's a section in the song where a king is saying, he slams his shovel straight between his eyes, and then he says, "Stay down, you're here to die." And after he says that, this really emotive solo comes in, and it's Mike Weed that's doing the solo, and it's got like a wah pedal or something going on, because it's got that wah pedal type sound to it. And I like it because it's kind of gives you a little bit of that Danner feeling in the way that King Diamond is singing some really vile lyrical type content here. He's talking about slamming a shovel right down into someone's head. And then the next thing you know, you got kind of this uplifting kind of rocking solo that comes in that doesn't even sound sinister, so it adds a nice contrast. As it stands now, 9 is still the last studio release, studio full-length album from Mercyful Fate to this day. But there's been news in recent time that Mercyful Fate is reforming. And what is the lineup, you might ask? Well, the lineup that has been announced is, of course, King Diamond, and then we got Hank Sherman, and then filling out the rest of the lineup, they're going to bring back Mike Weed, they're going to bring back Bjarne Holm on the drums, and filling in on bass is going to be Joey Vera. Because sadly, Timmy Hansen passed away in the past year of cancer. And, that's a big loss because he was a great bass player. And he was a very important, vital component to those early Mercyful Fate albums. And his performance on In the Shadows was solid. So it's just really sad to lose Timmy. So, that's a damn shame. So yeah, the reunion lineup, it's really sad to point out that Denner apparently wasn't even, sent an invitation. You know, according to Michael Denner, he said in an interview that King didn't reach out to him, and Hank Sherman didn't reach out to him either. So it's too bad. I mean, I don't know what the word is from King Diamond or Hank. They haven't, that I know of, they haven't spoke publicly about why Michael Denner wasn't invited. So I'm not going to speculate, but I will say it is a damn shame that he can't take part in this new reunion that Mercyful Fate is doing right now. But yeah, guys, I really hope this retrospective gave you a newfound appreciation for Mercyful Fate, as if you already didn't appreciate them enough. But I hope it really just got you feeling that need to put on some classic Fate material, to rock out to some Don't Break the Oath or some Melissa or Into the Unknown, whatever the hell you want to put on. Mercyful Fate are undoubtedly one of the greatest heavy metal bands to ever exist, and they had such a profound influence on so many different subgenres of metal. It's just astounding to even try to contemplate. So yeah, guys, once again, my name is Eric from Mountaintop 9, and if you ever want to see some nice doses of horror mixed in with some metal, check out my channel, Mountaintop 9. And from all your friends here at the Downfall Network, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be seeing you again real soon.
Subscribe to the Downfall Network.
No!